All right, so today I want to talk about trolling motor batteries. I put together this presentation based on about the last 10 years of my experience from using different types of batteries for my trolling motor. If you watched any of my videos, I primarily troll and I primarily use my electric trolling motor as my main source of propulsion. So over the years, over about the last 10 years, I've gone through several different types of batteries. I'm in need, unfortunately, for a new set of batteries, so I decided to do some more research and find out what batteries are going to be best for me. Ultimately, I came to my decision that I'll talk about through here, but there's lots of pros and cons on batteries, and I just wanted to, from a very high level, go over the different options that are out there, some of those pros and cons, and hopefully help others that are out there looking make some informed decisions. So today we'll be talking about lead acid, AGM, and lithium batteries. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about some of the common terms that you'll hear me talk about today, and then also as you're doing additional research. So the first one is the DOD, which is the depth of discharge. That's the percent of battery that is used. So that's how empty it is. So if it was 70% DOD, that would mean that you're 70% drained. The state of charge is basically the opposite. It's how full it is. So it's going to tell you at 70%, it would be 70% full. So SOC, state of charge. And then BMS is battery management system. The new lithium ion batteries that we'll talk about, they all have some type of battery management system. They're almost like a smart battery, and that's one of the things that sets them apart from the other two types of batteries that we'll talk about. AH is amp hours. It's basically the amount of energy that's stored in your battery. That's the common term that they use. So as you're looking at different batteries, you're going to want to look for that amp hour rating, and that tells you basically the capacity of that battery. And then we're going to talk about different types of wiring. So parallel wiring and series wiring. Batteries that are wired in parallel will increase the total amp hours but keep voltage the same. And then batteries wired in series will increase the voltage but keep the amp hours the same. We'll go through that in a little more detail here in a little bit. So first of all, we're going to talk about lead acid batteries. Lead acid batteries are the oldest and most common type of batteries that are out there. If you're looking at a lead acid battery, you're going to want to look for one that's marine grade and that's deep cycle. Deep cycle batteries are made to be slowly drained and recharged, unlike a starting battery that's used for quick bursts of energy. So historically, lead acid is the most common type of battery out there, and with a high quality battery, you can expect to get about 2 to 3 years of use if it's properly maintained. So the pros with lead acid is low cost. It's going to be the cheapest option out there. Cons, lead acid, it does require maintenance, especially if you're using it frequently. You're going to want to make sure you're checking those battery cells. They have the little covers that you pull off and fill that up with water as needed. If those get low or dry, you're going to ruin your battery. Because it is a maintainable battery, it is subject to leaking and spilling out of those covers on the top. So with lead acid batteries, it's not recommended that you discharge them more than 50%. If you do that, you're going to shorten the life on it. We'll talk about that more here in a little bit. And then the weight of these batteries, they're pretty heavy. For a Group 31 that I've run in my boat, they're about 60 pounds. And then as far as warranty, 1 year warranty is about the most you're going to find on those. The one you see pictured is a Duracell Group 31. I've run several sets of these in my boats in the past. Overall, they're a great battery. If you're on a budget, you can pick them up for around $100, $150 each. I still highly recommend them, but you just need to be aware of all those different things that you want to make sure you're maintaining them and to get the full life that you're not discharging them too much. The next type of battery is an AGM. It basically builds on top of that lead acid, and it's a sealed battery that requires no maintenance. Similar to the lead acid, you're going to get 2 to 3 years of use with a high quality battery. The cost is a little bit more on these, or about double the cost of the ones that you have to maintain. One of the nice things about these batteries are they're sealed, so there's no maintenance required topping off that fluid. So some of the cons on this battery is just like the lead acid, they are subject to premature failure if you're frequently discharging them below that 50% charge. The weight on these, they are about 60 pounds, again, for the same big battery. and then you're going to get anywhere from a 1 to 1.5 year warranty typically on these batteries. So the next type of battery that we're going to talk about is a lithium or lithium iron phosphate. You'll see that LiFe or LiFePO4. That's the most common type of the newer generation of the batteries. The lithium batteries are the latest in battery technology. Some of the pros, you're going to get a lot longer life out of these batteries. It's estimated you'll get approximately 10-year life. You're going to get a 3,000 to 5,000 cycle count on these batteries. You can get warranties from the manufacturers from anywhere from 5 to 10 years. Another pro is the weight savings. You're only going to be about 25 pounds of battery versus at 60 to 70 pounds. You get a longer runtime. And the reason you get a longer runtime for the same size battery with the same amp hours is because you can safely discharge these batteries to 90% versus the 50% that you can with the lead acid. So you almost double the actual runtime that you're going to get by using lithium. These batteries are also sealed, so no maintenance is required and you're not subject to spills. These batteries also have a battery management system, so it's basically a built-in computer into the battery. And another pro on these batteries is you get full voltage the whole time while you're using it. We'll talk about this here. I've got a slide on it. But with lead acid batteries, the voltage drops as the battery drains. With lithium ion, the battery stays at a more constant, higher voltage the entire time until the very end. And this is very important when you're trolling. Typically, not using lithium, I'd start out my day and be trolling about 4 to 5 on my trolling motor to troll at about 1.2 miles an hour. And as my day would go on, I'd have to keep bumping that speed up. That would basically tell me how low my battery was. The quicker I had to bump my speed up, I knew my battery was getting low. With lithium, you're going to keep that same charge, that same voltage, the whole length of the runtime on that battery. So lithium batteries also support faster charging. This is due to the efficiencies of the way that lithium charges, and they are also capable of supporting higher charge rates. We'll talk about that a little bit in more detail as well. Some of the cons of lithium, I think the biggest one for everyone is that initial investment. It is a lot more money up front, but as you see some of these other benefits, it may help you make that decision if that's the route you want to go. And then another con that you really want to be aware of, depending on where you live, if you're in an area with cold temperatures and your boat's being charged in those cold temperatures, there's some special requirements that you need to make sure you're following if it's below 32 degrees, below freezing. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit as well. So next I want to talk about discharge rates. As you can see on this chart, and as I talked about earlier, lithium batteries hold that same voltage over the whole length of their discharge cycle, where lead acid drops. So the big pro with this is you're going to get full power the entire time with lithium. With lead acid, from my experience with my trolling motor, I'll start out at around a power level 5 at the beginning of the day, trolling at about 1.2 miles an hour. And by the time my battery's starting to go out, I'll be up in that 7, 8. And if I get up that high, I know I'm getting too low and I either need to put it away for the day or use my kicker to help assist. With lithium, you're not going to get that notification, which is in some ways is a good thing because you're going to have that full power. But the one thing you want to make sure you're careful with, if you have a trolling motor that automatically deploys like I do, I've got the Ultera. If that battery gets low and you can't stow it, there's not an easy way to manually stow that battery. So you're going to want to make sure you have a way to monitor your battery level, because it won't act like a lead acid and start slowing down, so that it doesn't get too low and you have problems stowing your trolling motor. Okay, and this slide right here, this is one of the big reasons that I'm deciding to go lithium ion. Historically, on my boat, I've run the lead acid batteries. I've gone through 2 sets of those, and this is on my current boat. Before then, I ran lead acid for several years as well, so I've gone through several sets of those. Historically, 2 to maybe 3 years is about what I get out of them, best case, and that's if I maintain them well. This last time I went to AGMs, because I didn't want to have to keep maintaining them, paid a little bit more for them. When I first got them, they ran absolutely great. I was getting I would say probably 20% longer runtime than I was getting with my lead acids. I really, really enjoyed them. They lasted good for about a year, and then I had a couple trips that I went and I drained them way too much. I had heard that draining them too much could hurt the long-term performance out of them, but I didn't realize how much damage I was doing. And because I had drained them so many times, so low, my life on that battery cut down from the 2 to 3 years I would have got to just over a year. So that's where I'm sitting right now. And so that's really what this chart shows, is to get the longest life out of lead acid batteries, the manufacturers recommend that you don't discharge them below 50%. If you're discharging them below 50%, you're quickly shortening that lifespan like I did. Whereas with lithium, you're rated to charge 3 to 5,000 cycles at 90% DOD. So you're basically able to use that full battery every single time you're out on the water, which essentially doubles the amount of runtime you have on those batteries without doing any damage. So that's probably the number one reason that I'm going to lithium, is to be able to get that additional runtime in the same footprint and have that long lasting battery. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about battery wiring schematics. If you've never had a trolling motor before, you're looking at getting one. My next slide, I'm going to talk about calculating the runtime, but in order to understand that, I just want to talk a little bit about how battery systems work. So for my trolling motor, it's a 36 volt system. So there's two different wiring schematics that are used for trolling motor batteries. One is if you want to increase the capacity of your battery, and say you have just a 12 volt system, you can wire your batteries in parallel. And that will, if you wire two batteries in parallel, as you see on that image on the left, that's going to increase the total capacity, so the total amp hours, from 100 to 200 amp hours. It still stays at 12 volts. For my system, it's a 36 volt system, so I need 3 batteries to make up that system. So you wire your batteries in series, and each battery it adds on to the system. So for my system, I've got 3 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries, which is going to give me a 36 volt system at 100 amp hours. So the next thing we're going to go over is trolling motor runtime. What can you actually expect to get with your trolling motor? There's a ton of variables on here, so your actual results may vary greatly from what I have. But for me, I've got a 23-foot aluminum Lund boat with the 112 thrust to 36 volt trolling motor. It's an Ultera. So the way you calculate this is you take the battery amp hour rating. So with my system, I've got those 3 batteries hooked together with 100 amp hours. You divide that by the trolling motor amp draw. I've got a little chart on the right that I took from Minn Kota that you can look and see approximately what your amperage draw is based on the power of your trolling motor. So for my example, I've got the 36 volt 100 amp hour batteries with a 112 pound thrust trolling motor. It has a maximum of 52 amps. I'm calculating that I'm on average using 35% power. And the way I calculated that is I know about how long of runtime I would get on a full set of brand new batteries, which is right around 5 to 6 hours. And that's going at about 1.2 miles an hour and level 4 to 5 on my remote out of 10. So I calculated that is going to be about 35% power. If you're going faster than that, if you're fighting the wind, if you're going over that level 4 to 5, it could be much higher than that. So with brand new 100 amp hour batteries, when I'm draining them all the way dead, which I unfortunately have done too many times, I'm getting right around that 5 to 6 hours. If I would have followed the recommendations of the manufacturers and only drained my batteries 50%, then really my usable runtime is about 2.7, about 3 hours is my usable runtime. If I drain my batteries to that 90%, so I'm using 90 amp hours, is my actual usable, I'm going to get around 5 hours out of those batteries with lithium. So my overall runtime from what I've experienced probably isn't going to double because I've been killing my batteries, but I'm going to be able to get at least as long as I have been without killing my batteries and not be changing them out every year because I'm killing them. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is charging your batteries. So trolling motor batteries, it's really important that they are constantly charged and maintained and kept in a full state. So you're going to absolutely want to get an onboard charger. And as you're looking at onboard chargers, the important thing to look at first is the amps per bank, and that's going to equal the charge rate. So this one is a no-code charger. This is actually what I'm using now currently. Got 10 amps per bank. So a 10 amp charger will charge an empty 100 amp battery in about 10 to 12 hours. And lithium's a little bit more efficient, so the charge times are going to be a little bit better than they will with lead acid. And then another couple things to keep in mind is lead acid can support 25% of the capacity as the charge rate. So if you have a 100 amp battery, you can charge up to 25 amps or use a charger that will charge up to 25 amps. For a lithium battery, it will support up to 50% of the charge rate. So if you have a 100 amp hour battery, you could get a charger that would charge up to 50 amps. So one thing to note there, even though you can charge it that fast, charging it that fast all the time can have some negative effects also. The most common chargers out there for a multi-bank charger to hook up to multiple batteries like I have, and note you do need a multi-bank. It needs to have a separate bank for each battery that you're charging. It's going to be between about a 5 to 15 amp. I settled on a 10 amp. NOCO, that's the biggest one that they make. Before I had a Dual Pro 15 amp charger that I was charging my batteries with, so I could charge up a little bit quicker. But moving to lithium, I did need to get a new charger that supported lithium, so this is the one I decided to go with. If you are getting a new battery charger or considering lithium, make sure that you get one that does support lithium. This charger has been great for me. I've actually got another video review that I'll be putting out on it. It supports all the different types of batteries, plus it has a repair mode that I did use on my batteries that did help bring back the performance pretty good on them. So if you're looking at getting a new charger, this is a great option. So now that we've gone over the different types of batteries, if you do want to go the lithium route, a couple of things to keep in mind. So all lithium batteries will have some type of battery management system. Some are just going to be basic, almost like a dumb battery that's sealed and you'll never see it and it just does its magic under the covers. Or you can step up to one that has Bluetooth. I highly recommend getting one with Bluetooth so you can see your state of charge if you're running an Ultera motor or another trolling motor that self-deploys. That way you're not stuck with a dead battery and not able to retract your trolling motor. Another thing to keep in mind, the battery management system can also help with that cold weather charging protection. There's a couple different ways that these BMS systems work. One of them is it just will not let it charge at all if it's below that freezing mark. There's another system out there that it actually has a heater built into the battery, and if it's below that 32 degrees, it'll heat the battery first and then it will start charging. So those are all options to look at when you're looking at the BMS system. There's also sealed or serviceable batteries out there. One that's sealed, you would just have to send back to the manufacturer, versus a serviceable one. If there's a component, maybe your BMS board went out, it is possible for them to send you parts and swap some stuff out yourself. The other thing I would look at is there's a ton of different companies out there. Most of the batteries, they're all coming from China. Some of them may be assembled or warehoused here in the US, but ultimately from everything I've seen, read, and heard, they're all manufactured in China, which when you're looking at the different companies out there, I would look at the customer reviews. Wouldn't even hurt if, you're going to spend a lot of money on these. If you had questions, try reaching out to their customer service, see if you get responses back before you decide to go on a super cheap one versus a more expensive one. I would do your research. And then also look and make sure that the batteries that you're choosing and looking at will work with either a parallel or series system. Some of them can only work standalone. Other ones are compatible with hooking multiple together. And then the last thing I would look at is the warranty. I've seen anywhere from a 5 to a 10 plus year warranty out there. Again, the warranty is only as good as the company behind it, so make sure you feel comfortable with that. Okay, so now that we've gone over what to look for in lithium batteries, I wanted to give some batteries that made my short list when I was deciding which batteries to purchase. All of the batteries on this list I feel are good batteries with a good value and would potentially be a good fit. I put this table together and I ranked the different categories that I talked about on the last slide. So on this, I've got whether it includes a basic or more advanced Bluetooth BMS. The big thing about that is with the Bluetooth, you're going to be able to monitor the state of charge from an app. whether or not it has cold weather protection. This cold weather protection is whether the BMS allows the battery to charge if it gets below 32 degrees. If lithium batteries are charged below 32 degrees, it can damage the battery. So some of these batteries, they have that cold weather protection where it will just not allow it to charge. The next is whether it has a cold weather heater. There is a battery on this list, the Chins. It actually does have a heater built into it. So if you are below that 32 degrees, it will actually warm the battery up to get it to a safe temperature before it starts charging. That may make this battery a really good fit if you're storing your boat outside and want to use it in the wintertime and need to charge in colder than 32 degrees. The next category was whether it's sealed or serviceable. And then the warranty. As you can see, there's everything from 3 to 10 years warranty. The Battleborn has got a 10-year warranty. I've heard really good things about Battleborn. Their battery components are manufactured in China just like everyone else, but the company is a US company and really stands behind their warranty. So you get a full 10-year warranty. It's also the most expensive on the list because of that. But if you want to just guarantee that you're going to have something that lasts for 10 years, that could be a good option for you. And then the last is the cost. As you can see, these range pricing as of August 2022. You can get into a battery for as low as about $350 all the way up to, there's ones a lot more expensive than this, but on this list they shortlisted just under $900. When I had to replace my batteries about a year ago, pricing was much more than it is today. So that's what really got me looking into, okay, what should I do? I've killed my good AGM batteries that I was hoping to get 2 to 3 years out of. I only got 1 year out of it. What battery should I go with? So you're probably wondering which of these batteries I chose to go with. For me, I felt that the AO Lithium was the best battery. It has the Bluetooth BMS, so I can check the state of charge, which is really important, so I can make sure I don't drain it too low while I'm out on the water, so I can still retract my Altera. It does have cold weather protection. I usually keep my boat in my garage, but it's nice to know that if my garage happens to get too cold or my boat is left out, that it won't damage my battery by trying to charge it. It's a serviceable battery that I like, so if in the warranty period something breaks, there's a potential for it to be repaired without a complete replacement. It does have an 8-year warranty, and the cost as at the time of this was about $600. So my old batteries, I paid about $600 for 3 of them. So if I continue to use and abuse my other batteries like I have been, the ROI on this is about 3 years. So for me, at this price, with all the advantages of lithium that include, again, having that same voltage the entire time, being able to use up to 90% plus of the battery each time you're out instead of being limited to only about 50% without damaging your battery. And then the cost, now that it's finally in an area that I feel good about moving forward with, I'm jumping forward and putting these on my boat. So I actually do have these batteries, just got them installed on my boat. I haven't had a chance to take them out and try them yet. I will be doing an unboxing and an initial setup and review. And then I also plan on doing a couple follow-up videos to show how they're working and the actual life that I'm getting out of them. If you're interested in any of these batteries, I do have links to them in the description and also on my website with this written guide. If you do decide to purchase the batteries from one of those links, we do get a small percentage of that sale that will go back to help the channel. I appreciate everyone's support. And then the last thing I want to talk about is just some general overall guidelines. Make sure you're always using the same size of battery, the same age in a series or parallel setup. If you've got multiple hooked together, don't get an old one. If you have one that goes out, unfortunately, that's how I am. If one of my batteries goes out or I'm having issues with it, you've got to replace it all. If not, they won't balance properly and you'll just cause more issues and end up ruining your new ones that you purchase. So you do have to replace them all together. And then for trolling motor battery use, make sure that it's either marine rated or that it has a waterproof rating if it's lithium. And then I didn't cover any of this here, but make sure you're using the appropriate size wiring and fuses and breakers when you're hooking everything together. Like I mentioned, make sure you're using an onboard charger and keep your batteries plugged in when not in use. And then if you're using a lead acid battery, make sure you're checking and filling it regularly. So I just want to thank everyone for sticking through this one. It was fun to put together. I was able to take all my experience from the last 10 years, plus the recent research that I've done on lithium batteries again. Hopefully it can help you make an informed decision when you're purchasing trolling motor batteries.